In the vastness of space, stars twinkled like diamonds on a dark canvas. The Galactic Alliance, a group of many planets and species, met in their Grand Council chamber. They were worried. An enemy known as the Varkons had started to conquer planets one by one. Fear spread among the council members like a dark shadow. The council room was filled with representatives from different planets. Some were tall and green with long limbs, while others were small and blue with big eyes. They all looked serious. The leader of the council, a wise elder named Zorak, stood at the front. He had seen many battles and knew that this enemy was unlike any they had faced before. "Friends," Zorak said, his voice deep and steady, "we must find a way to stop the Varkons. They are strong, and if we do not act soon, they will take our worlds." The council members nodded, but many looked worried. They had lost many ships and soldiers already. Some whispered doubts among themselves. "What can we do?" "We need more power," one alien shouted, his voice shaking with fear. Just then, the door opened and the human ambassador, Sarah, walked in. She was small compared to the other council members, but her presence filled the room. She had come from Earth, a planet known for its fierce warriors and clever minds. The other members looked at her with curiosity. Humans had not been a part of the Galactic Alliance for long, and many still did not understand them. "Why are we waiting?" Sarah asked, her voice clear. "I know humans have fought many wars. We can help you." Some aliens scoffed, thinking that humans were not strong enough for such a big task. "You think your kind can defeat the Varkons? You are just primitive creatures," a tall green alien named Grax said, sneering. The room fell silent, and Sarah felt the weight of their doubt. But Sarah stood her ground. "You underestimate humanity. We have survived against all odds. We have learned to adapt, to be clever in battle. We fight with our minds as much as our weapons. Give us a chance and you will see." Zorak raised his hand for silence. "Perhaps we should listen to her. Humans have faced many challenges on their own planet. They have a history of overcoming great threats," the council murmured, considering Zorak's words. Sarah took a deep breath and began to share stories of human victories. She spoke of how humans had once faced great monsters, how they learned to use teamwork and strategy to win battles that seemed impossible. The tales inspired some members of the council, lighting a spark of hope in their hearts. "Let us not forget the last war on Earth," Sarah continued. "We were outnumbered, but we used our knowledge of the land and our unity to defeat a much larger force. We can do the same here against the Varkons." Slowly, the atmosphere in the room began to change. The council members listened intently, drawn in by Sarah's passion. The stories of bravery and resilience began to stir something deep within them. They remembered their own battles and how unity and strategy had led them to victory. After a long pause, Zorak spoke again. "Let us take a vote. If we agree, we will allow humans to join our fight against the Varkons." One by one, the council members raised their hands, agreeing to give humans a chance. Excitement filled the air as they realized they had made a choice that could change everything. Sarah smiled, feeling a wave of relief and determination wash over her. "Together we will prepare for battle," she said, her voice strong. "The Varkons will not know what hit them." As the meeting ended, the council members left with a new sense of hope. The storm of war was coming, but they now had a plan. With the humans by their side, they were ready to face the enemy. The galaxy would soon see why humans had always triumphed in galactic wars. As the sun rose over the planet of Zelfar, the Galactic Alliance prepared for battle. The air was thick with tension, and soldiers from many worlds gathered in their camps. Humans, led by Ambassador Sarah, stood alongside their alien allies. They all knew that the Varkons were coming, and they needed a strong plan to win. In the command tent, Sarah looked at the maps spread across the table. The Varkons had a reputation for their brute strength and powerful ships, but humans had something different to offer. They had experience and clever strategies. Sarah gathered everyone around the table. "We can't just face the Varkons head-on," she said. "We need to be smart about this. We will use tactics that surprise them." The alien soldiers looked at each other uncertain. Grax, the tall green alien who had doubted humans before, crossed his arms. "What do you mean? We have ships and weapons. Why not use them?" Sarah smiled, knowing this was the moment to show her allies how humans thought. Sometimes it's not just about having the biggest guns. It's about how you use what you have. Let's use the environment to our advantage. We can set traps and ambushes. The Varkons won't see it coming. The council members listened closely. The idea of using traps was new to many of them. Sarah explained how humans had used these tactics in their own wars. They often lured enemies into traps, surprising them when they least expected it. After a long discussion, the council agreed to try Sarah's plan. They divided into teams, each responsible for different areas. Humans and aliens worked side by side, preparing for the fight ahead. Sarah felt a sense of unity growing among them, and she knew they were ready. Days passed as the Alliance set up their defenses. They placed hidden weapons in the forests and laid out traps near the expected enemy paths. They also used the terrain to confuse the Varkons. They created false signals to lead the enemy in the wrong direction. Finally, the day of battle arrived. The sky turned dark as the Varkon ships appeared on the horizon, their massive forms blocking out the sun. The Alliance soldiers took their positions, hearts pounding with both fear and excitement. Sarah stood at the front, rallying her troops. "Remember our plan," she shouted. "Stay calm and trust each other. We are stronger together." The Varkons landed and began to advance. They were large and intimidating, with fierce eyes and heavy armor. The Alliance soldiers held their breath, ready to fight. Just as the Varkons stepped into the traps, Sarah signaled for the first phase of the plan to begin. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the ground. The first trap had been set off, catching a group of Varkon soldiers off guard. They stumbled and fell, confused and scared. The Alliance soldiers took this chance to attack. The Varkons, caught by surprise, tried to regroup. But the Alliance soldiers were quick and clever. They moved swiftly through the forest, using the trees for cover. The humans shouted commands, coordinating their attacks as they had practiced. Each ambush left the Varkons more disoriented, and their numbers began to dwindle. As the battle raged on, Grax saw how effective the human tactics were. He fought alongside Sarah, and they worked together to push back the enemy. Grax felt a growing respect for the humans. They were not just warriors, they were strategists who used their minds to win. The tide of the battle turned when Sarah spotted the Varkon leader, a massive figure towering over his soldiers. She pointed him out to her allies. "We need to take him down! He's the key to their command!" With a surge of courage, Sarah and Grax led a group of soldiers toward the leader. They fought their way through the chaos, dodging attacks and pushing forward. Finally, they reached the Varkon leader, who roared in anger. But with a clever tactic, they trapped him in a net, a final surprise that left him powerless. The remaining Varkon soldiers, seeing their leader captured, began to retreat in fear. As the battle ended, the Alliance celebrated their victory. They had not only defeated the Varkons, but had done so using tactics that were unexpected. The humans had proven their worth, and the aliens realized that thinking outside the box could change everything in a war. Sarah smiled, knowing they had just begun to understand the true strength of humanity. The victory over the Varkons had filled the Galactic Alliance with hope, but the storm of war was far from over. As the days passed, the threat of the Varkons loomed ever larger. The Alliance's forces worked tirelessly to prepare for the next battle, but fear began to creep into their hearts. Whispers of doubt circulated among the soldiers, and they were worried about what the enemy might do next. One evening, in the command tent, Sarah sat with her fellow leaders, reviewing their plans. The maps were spread out before them, but the mood was heavy. Grax, the tall green alien who had become one of Sarah's closest allies, looked troubled. "What if the Varkons strike us first?" he asked, his voice low. "They may not be so easy to surprise again." The others nodded in agreement. The memories of the first battle were fresh, but they knew the Varkons were regrouping and planning their revenge. The leaders discussed their fears, each one sharing thoughts of potential failure and loss. The idea of facing the Varkons again was daunting. Sarah leaned forward, trying to lift the spirits in the room. "We have faced tough challenges before. We can't let fear control us. We have the experience and the teamwork to win again." But her words did little to ease the tension. Just then, a soldier burst into the tent, his face pale and eyes wide. "Commander, the Varkons are attacking! They're coming in waves!" he shouted, panic evident in his voice. The room fell silent. Sarah's heart raced. They had known this day would come, but nothing could prepare them for the sudden urgency of the situation. The Varkons were here, and they were ready to fight. "Everyone get ready!" Sarah shouted, her voice firm despite the fear rising within her. We must organize our defenses and hold our positions." The soldiers scrambled to follow her orders, but the chaos of fear had already set in. As the Varkon ships descended, a feeling of dread washed over the camp. The Alliance soldiers took their positions, but their hands trembled. They had fought bravely before, but the thought of facing the Varkons again filled them with doubt. As the first Varkon wave crashed against their defenses, the sound of explosions and battle cries filled the air. Sarah could see the enemy charging forward, their fierce faces showing no mercy. The Alliance soldiers struggled to keep their composure, and Sarah felt her own fear rising. Would they be able to stand strong this time? Grax fought nearby, but Sarah could see the worry in his eyes. "We can't let them break us!" he shouted over the noise, trying to inspire the troops. "Remember what we achieved before." But as more Varkons poured into the camp, the Alliance soldiers began to falter. Some retreated, fear taking hold of them. The scene turned chaotic, and Sarah's heart sank. They had trained and prepared, but the sudden onslaught was overwhelming. In that moment, Sarah felt a wave of panic. She knew she had to do something to rally her troops. "We have faced danger before," she shouted, trying to cut through the fear. "Remember the traps! Remember our unity! We are stronger together!" Her words barely reached the soldiers, many of whom were too caught up in their own fears to listen. Sarah's heart raced as she saw a group of Varkons advancing toward her position. She took a deep breath and gripped her weapon tighter, refusing to let fear consume her. Then she spotted a young soldier, trembling and afraid, crouched behind a rock. "Get up! We need you!" she yelled at him. He looked at her, eyes wide with panic. "But I'm scared!" "They'll kill us!" he cried. In that moment, something clicked in Sarah's mind. "Fear is normal!" she shouted. "But we cannot let it stop us. You have a duty to protect your home. We fight not just for ourselves, but for each other." As if her words had cast a spell, the young soldier slowly stood up, his resolve building. One by one, others began to rise, inspired by Sarah's bravery. She could see the flicker of courage returning to their faces. With renewed determination, Sarah shouted, "We will fight! Together!" She rushed forward, leading her soldiers into the fray. They began to push back against the Varkons, using their tactics and teamwork to regain control. The battle raged on, but the Alliance soldiers fought with renewed strength. They remembered their victories and found courage in each other. In that moment of fear, they transformed their dread into determination. As the dust settled and the battle continued, Sarah knew they were far from safe. But they had faced their fear together, and that made all the difference. After the intense battle against the Varkons, the Galactic Alliance found itself at a turning point. They had faced fear and uncertainty, but now they stood united and determined. Sarah, their human leader, knew they had to take action. It was time for a counterattack to show the Varkons that the Alliance would not back down. In the command tent, Sarah gathered her team of leaders. Grax, the tall green alien, looked more confident now. "We cannot wait for the Varkons to strike again. We must take the fight to them," he said, his eyes shining with resolve. The other leaders nodded in agreement. "But how do we do this?" asked one of the alien commanders, his voice filled with concern. "The Varkons have powerful ships and fierce warriors." Sarah smiled, her mind racing with ideas. "We have learned from our previous battles. We can use their strength against them. We know their tactics, and we can use the element of surprise." The leaders listened as Sarah outlined her plan. They would launch a surprise counterattack at dawn, striking the Varkon camp while their forces were still recovering. They would send small teams to create distractions and take out key targets, making it easier for the main forces to advance. At dawn, the first light broke over the horizon. The Alliance forces gathered at their positions, ready to strike. Sarah stood at the front, her heart pounding with excitement and nerves. "This is our moment," she shouted. "Let's show them what we can do." With a signal, the first wave of Alliance soldiers moved silently toward the Varkon camp. They navigated through the trees, staying low and hidden. The sound of their footsteps was muffled by the rustling leaves. Everything depended on their stealth and timing. As they approached the Varkon camp, the Alliance soldiers could see the enemy unprepared and vulnerable. Most of the Varkons were still sleeping or nursing wounds from the previous battle. Sarah's heart raced. This was the perfect moment to strike. With a loud battle cry, the Alliance soldiers charged forward, catching the Varkons by surprise. The clash of weapons filled the air as the two sides collided. The Varkons, caught off guard, struggled to organize themselves. Meanwhile, Sarah led a small team to the center of the camp, where they spotted the Varkon commander. He was a massive figure, barking orders to his troops. "We have to take him out!" Sarah shouted to her team. With quick thinking, they devised a plan. Grax and 2 other soldiers would create a diversion, drawing the attention of the Varkons, while Sarah and another soldier would sneak around to flank the commander. They moved swiftly, adrenaline pushing them forward. Grax shouted and charged at the Varkon troops, waving his weapon. The Varkons turned to face him, momentarily distracted. "Now, Sarah!" he yelled. With the diversion in place, Sarah and her teammates sprinted toward the commander. They could see him, his back turned, barking orders to his soldiers. This was their chance. With a swift motion, Sarah launched herself at him, catching him by surprise. The commander turned just in time to see Sarah charging at him. He raised his weapon, but it was too late. With a fierce strike, Sarah knocked him down, quickly overpowering him. As he fell, a wave of confidence surged through her. Meanwhile, the main forces of the Alliance continued to push into the camp. They fought bravely, using the tactics they had practiced. The soldiers shouted commands, coordinating their attacks, and the Varkons began to falter. The tide of battle shifted as the Alliance gained ground. The Varkons, disorganized and confused, struggled to regroup. Sarah's team rallied around her, and together they pushed toward the heart of the enemy camp. With the Varkon commander defeated and their forces disarrayed, the Alliance soldiers pressed on. The sound of victory filled the air as the Alliance began to take control. They had turned the tide of the battle, proving that their courage and unity were powerful weapons against the Varkons. As the sun rose higher in the sky, illuminating the chaos of battle, Sarah felt a surge of pride. They had faced their fears, taken action, and turned the tide. The great counterattack was a success, and they had shown the Varkons that the Alliance would not be defeated. The battle against the Varkons had been fierce, but the Galactic Alliance emerged victorious. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Sarah stood among her fellow soldiers, feeling a mix of exhaustion and pride. They had faced incredible challenges and had come out stronger. The victory was not just about winning a battle, it was about forging bonds that would last a lifetime. The Alliance gathered at their main camp to celebrate. Soldiers from different worlds shared stories and laughter, their spirits lifted by the success they had achieved together. Sarah walked through the crowd, listening to the cheers and witnessing the joy on their faces. It was a sight she would always cherish. Grax, the tall green alien who had fought bravely by her side, approached her. "We did it, Sarah! We really did it!" he exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement. "This victory shows how strong we can be when we work together." Sarah smiled, grateful for his friendship. "Yes, Grax, this victory is just the beginning. We have proven that we can overcome any challenge if we stand united." As the celebrations continued, the leaders of the Alliance gathered to discuss their future. They met in the command tent, where maps and reports were spread out on the table. Sarah took a deep breath, ready to share her vision. "We must build on this victory," she said, her voice steady. "The Varkons will not give up easily. They will come back, and we need to be prepared. But we also need to strengthen our alliance." The leaders listened intently as Sarah outlined her plan. She suggested creating joint training programs where soldiers from different races could learn from each other. "We have different strengths, and if we share our knowledge, we can become an even more powerful force," she explained. Grax nodded. "That is a great idea. Each of our species has unique skills. If we combine them, we will be unstoppable." The leaders agreed, and they began to discuss the details. They would hold training sessions and joint exercises where soldiers could practice together. The idea of sharing tactics and strategies excited everyone. They knew it would create stronger bonds among the Alliance members. As they talked, a young soldier from a distant planet spoke up. "But what about our homes? Some of us have families waiting for us," she said, her voice filled with concern. "How can we keep them safe while we train and prepare for the next battle?" Sarah understood her worries. "We will work to protect our homeworlds," she assured her. "We can create a defense plan that ensures our families are safe while we train. Everyone will have a role to play." The discussion continued late into the night. They talked about sharing resources, technology, and medical assistance. The Alliance leaders realized that their collaboration could create a stronger and more united front against any future threats. As the meeting concluded, Sarah felt a sense of hope. The Galactic Alliance was not just a group of different species, they were becoming a family. They were learning to trust each other and work together. The bond they had formed in battle was growing stronger with each passing day. In the following weeks, the Alliance implemented their training programs. Soldiers traveled from different planets to participate in joint exercises. They learned to communicate better, share strategies, and develop friendships. Laughter echoed across the training fields as soldiers worked side by side, helping one another grow. As the training progressed, Sarah saw the impact of their efforts. The soldiers became more confident, skilled, and united. They formed a true alliance, one that could stand against any threat. Each day, they grew stronger together, building a future that promised peace and security. Then one day, as Sarah watched the training exercises, she received alarming news. The Varkans were amassing forces near their borders, preparing for another attack. Fear rippled through the camp, but Sarah stood tall. "We have faced challenges before," she said, gathering the soldiers around her. "This time we are not alone. We are stronger, and we will defend our homes together." Her words ignited a fire within the soldiers. They knew they had the skills and the unity to fight back. The bond they had created would be their greatest strength. As they prepared for the upcoming battle, Sarah felt a surge of hope. The Galactic Alliance had grown from a group of different races into a formidable team. Together, they would face whatever the universe threw at them, stronger than ever before.